Ever since the dawn of time, controller versus keyboard and mouse always gets brought up in first-person shooter discussions, and Roboquest is no different. So in this video, I'll be going over which is better for Roboquest. Also, I'll be talking very briefly about the gamepad settings and the aim assist, and then we'll ultimately decide which is better. Just want to add a quick side note that I've been using controller and keyboard and mouse for several years, so I do have some authority over this topic. It's really important to get this information from people that have used both types of peripherals over the span of several years, at the least.
And here we go.
So to first start off, I wanted to talk about the gamepad settings for Roboquest because they let you customize things that you don't normally get to customize in other games, even on PC. So for one, you could toggle controller aim acceleration, which basically increases your sensitivity the longer you hold down your right thumbstick. It does make your aiming feel a bit more inconsistent, and it's really hard to get used to. But the most important setting is that you could adjust your aim assist, which is absolutely insane. I've never played any other game that lets you do this. So you definitely want to utilize this if you're on controller. Now on the topic of aim assist, there's no aim assist on keyboard and mouse. I know there's some games that have aim assist on keyboard and mouse. For example, Halo Infinite, but it's not something you can turn on and off in that game. But for controllers, like I said earlier, aim assist is fully adjustable. Some people like to turn it down all the way and progressively turn it up to a setting that feels most comfortable. For me, I keep it on 50 for both aim assist and aim magnetism. Just keep in mind, the higher your aim assist is, the harder it is to turn your camera when there's a lot of enemies grouped up around you. Are you team controller or team keyboard and mouse? Let me know down in the comment section below. I'll be going over the pros and cons for controllers. For this video, I did use both keyboard and mouse and a controller to help visualize pros and cons I'm pointing out in this video. I currently do not have a camera to record me physically using a controller, but if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see the Xbox controller button prompts, which indicates I'm using a Xbox controller. So for the pros of using a controller, it's definitely more comfortable to use. And with a controller, you could just lean back on your seat, even lay down if you want to. You don't have to be at your desk unlike a keyboard and mouse. It also allows you to have a more relaxed experience. I mean, I'm not too sure how relaxed you'll get running on Guardian 4 in Roboquest. You also get analog movement with the thumbsticks, which allows for more precise mobility.
Nice.
Just keep in mind your mobility is hindered with aim magnetism and aim assist in crowded areas, which also makes it more difficult to navigate zones while also trying to slay robots. You also get custom settings to fine-tune aim assist and aim acceleration, which you don't really get in any other kind of first-person shooter. These pros are very significant if you are choosing between keyboard, mouse, and controller. But there are a few cons. For example, it's harder to use classes that require more precision, such as the Ranger and his Javelin ability, because if we're being honest, using just your thumbs to aim is a lot harder than using your arm and using a mouse.
Joke's on you, I'm into that shit!
But this is something that you can conquer over time with experience with a controller. If you've already been using a controller, this may not be as much as a con for you. Drop a like if you're enjoying the video so far. Let's try to hit 20 likes this video. Did you know there's an option to use a Nintendo Switch controller for Roboquest? Let me know if you use one down in the comment section below. For keyboard and mouse, it's a little bit different, as with keyboard and mouse, you're able to be more precise and accurate than a gamepad because you're aiming with your arm as opposed to just your thumbs. It's also easier to be mobile while outputting damage. And in a game like Roboquest, you always want to be moving, and on a gamepad, that's a bit harder to do.
That's what she said!
Unlike controllers, using keyboard and mouse, you'll benefit a lot more from classes that require high accuracy, such as Ranger and his javelin ability. You also get more customizability when it comes to key bindings to be as comfortable as you want. You can technically unbind unwanted actions by putting it on a button you never use. For me, that's the backspace button, as I mentioned earlier. It's also easier to be accurate at further range. For me, when I use controller, it's harder to be more accurate at further range, especially because it's really hard to tell how the aim assist is going to react. Another pro about keyboard and mouse is that you can bind the change weapon action to specific buttons alongside binding weapon 1 and weapon 2 to their own bindings. This is absolutely essential, especially in competitive scenarios, as it makes you way more accurate with your actions.
Wow.
However, there are some cons as well with using keyboard and mouse. For example, you do lose precise movements from analog thumbsticks compared to gamepad. It's also hard to get keyboard and mouse to work on consoles, and sometimes there are some input delays if you do manage to get it to work, which also means you need a proper desk setup to be able to physically use the keyboard and mouse. Also, you could be limited by the type of hardware you use. For example, my mouse has 12 extra buttons on the side. It's a MMO mouse, which I do use for shooters. If you guys want me to explain why in a separate video, I will. But if you use a standard mouse, you won't have any additional buttons, and your DPS might be limited as well. Also, keyboard and mouse requires a lot more time investment to become skilled with it.
Just get good.
When I first switched to keyboard and mouse in 2019, I was really discouraged at first, so I didn't fully dive into it until about a couple months after I got my first gaming computer. And then I was using a aim trainer called Kovacs, which I just grinded for hours until I felt comfortable enough to use a keyboard and mouse in a online setting.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
So which is better, keyboard and mouse or a controller? Well, using a controller is way more comfortable than using a keyboard and mouse. Aim assist on the controller can definitely be overpowered and carry a run, especially with the option to strengthen aim assist and magnetism for personal preference, which, by the way, I feel like could be exploited. However, on controller, it's harder to be mobile and avoiding damage while also trying to shoot back at enemies. Being able to use your arm to aim with keyboard or mouse makes it extremely easy to be mobile and accurate with damage output. However, with keyboard and mouse, you're at an extreme disadvantage if you're unable to maintain accuracy and can easily end your run at higher difficulties. Keyboard and mouse and the controllers are both viable options compared to other games that implement both inputs. Keep in mind, being on PC also gives you the ability to use aim trainers to really hone your skills and practice with any input you'd like to master. If you can master controller in Roboquest, it is the superior option in my opinion, just for the aim assist alone. Ultimately, it comes down to preference, but from my experience, controllers are great for the more casual gamer and someone that may not necessarily have the time that keyboard and mouse requires to become really skilled with. Keyboard and mouse is great for those that want a more fine-tuned experience with a more rewarding experience.